So to kind of get you guys started and let you understand where we're at in this process, so far we've gotten our files. Now, you guys are going to see me starting to use some files today, and maybe you weren't here with us to see where we got these files. So I'm going to take a quick moment and kind of explain to you guys where I got the files from. So let's show you real quick here. If we hide Pro Tools, and we'll go back to, and by the way, you can see I'm using Pro Tools 10, and I want you guys to get in the habit of using Pro Tools 10 for this project. If you've already started using Pro Tools 11, you're probably going to find that most of your virtual instruments are not there because they'll have to be written for the new codec. So if you look at my dock here, I'll show you my dock here. Pro Tools 11 actually looks just like Pro Tools 10. You'll see Pro Tools 10 once you get to version 10.3.7, which is what we're using here, about Pro Tools 10.3.7. They got really smart and they realized, well, wait a minute, we allowed people to use both Pro Tools 10 and Pro Tools 11 on the same machine, so how are we going to actually differentiate between the two? You can actually have them both installed on your system, and just notice that the symbol for Pro Tools 10 actually has the name 10 in it, and then Pro Tools 11 is just basically a generic splash screen. So we are using Pro Tools 10.3.7. Luckily enough, you guys may have noticed last week I mentioned that Pro Tools 11 is not supported in MPBS, and for most of your courses that's still true, meaning that most of our instructors don't have Pro Tools 11 yet. So if you send them an 11 session, they can open it. However, if you started using any of the brand new plugins, the new AAX format instead of the RTAS format, we're not going to have those. So it's best if you just stay in Pro Tools 10 for now. So just stay with Pro Tools 10. Charles, I see that Charles is using 10.3.6. Not a huge issue, Charles. You might find a little bit stability, better stability with 10.3.7. You can still work with 10.3.6 if you want. If you give me a second here, I'll send you guys a link. Let me hide Pro Tools. I'll quickly find a link for you guys for Pro Tools 10.3.7, and that way you guys can all have the new link. Let me see what I've done with this here. I've got a quick little text doc that I've already nailed this out in. Let's see here. We're going to find this underneath my iChat folder. 1 second, I'll get you guys the link. So here is our link. I'll go ahead and send this link now. That way you guys can have it. I'm afraid I might actually have to launch this because it looks like it's just going to simply, yeah, we're going to have to launch it. Not a big deal. This will allow me to go ahead and paste this link. That way you guys have the direct link to the download. Excellent. So there's your 10.3.7 update. If you just scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the update's located at the very, very bottom. Click to download the Mac installer. You do that, and there you go. You see I'm downloading it now. Don't really need to download it. I already got it downloaded. We'll go ahead and clear that out for now. Coolio. So a little bit about Pro Tools, and now let's kind of show you where we're getting these files from. I'm actually getting the files from a website called Indaba. However, most of you that were here with me last week probably noticed that Indaba didn't have a real good selection. So IndabaMusic.com is the website. I'll go ahead and paste that link. Hopefully you guys are already familiar with Indaba, and hopefully you've already gone and picked your song from Indaba, but in case you haven't, we'll just get you up to speed with any of the details you might be missing out on. So once you're at Indaba's website, I'll go ahead and navigate to their homepage so you can see what the homepage looks like. Coolio. I'm actually going to go to the Opportunities tab at the very top. There you go. You see Opportunities. Click on Opportunities. It's going to show you all the different... let's take a look and see what we got here for this. This will actually be a good example here. And actually, we might actually start from scratch. However, we're not going to probably have guide tracks to go by. But if you take a look, this was underneath the Opportunities section. And here's this artist, Corey Noki. And we'll go ahead and just take a listen to his acapella. By the way, this is typically how you're going to get these files. They're typically going to be sent just as the acapella. So we'll give a quick listen to this acapella.
Hey there, lover. How How can we start out trying to save each other? Happily after's love and laughter, only to fall into a sweet disaster. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words could never hurt me. Love me, leave me, boys don't cry, and we both know this just ain't working. I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I'm gonna love you, my sweet disaster.
Actually, you know what? I think we're going to go ahead and download these files and use this because this is pretty cool. This is kind of the way you're usually going to get to do a remix. Usually, they're not going to send you all of the stems. And so in this instance, they're just sending you the acapella. And again, this is usually how most remix artists are going to work. They kind of want you to do your own thing. So they're going to send you the acapella. I saw someone mention that Endava wouldn't let them download the files. That means you haven't created an account. So you need to create a free account first. The account's free, it doesn't cost you anything. You only have 3 opportunities. In other words, only 3 artists that you can choose from to download their files to do your remix. So just keep that in mind, okay? So you want to kind of pick judiciously. Right now, there's really only 2 things up, but let me kind of show you the download process, and we'll kind of get you into how that works. So I'm going to go ahead and decide to download the stems here. There's only 1 stem, by the way. Notice it's going to give you some legal jargon. It's just basically saying, hey, we're going to sue the bejesus out of you if you actually try to sell this in any way, because this is copyrighted material. They're just loaning it to you. You don't have any control over this. So if you want to use it, for your own enjoyment and let your friends listen to your remix, that's fine. But anytime you involve money, they're going to try to come after you to get that money. So just keep that in mind. You accept and continue. Now, once you accept and continue, you'll notice it went ahead and downloaded the files. Once it starts to download those files, I don't think you can actually ever get back to this page again, so just keep that in mind. Some important information that I'm going to take a look at here is FAQ, frequently asked questions, because we'll need to have some information here about this song that will help us use this in our remix. For instance, we want to know the actual tempo. So let's take a look and see here. Tempo, it gives us the key of C minor and at a tempo of 128 beats per minute. Really important information that we're going to need for later on, so I'm going to hang on to that information. And so C minor, 128 beats per minute. Beats per minute is BPM, I'm sorry, is abbreviation for beats per minute. So just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and go grab that file. I can see it's already downloaded. So let's go look in my downloads folder. I'm going to go ahead and hide Safari. We'll go look in our downloads folder. Let's take a look at my downloads folder. And here's our artist here, Sweet Disaster. Now, it's got some extra information in there. It's a WAV file, which is great. I don't really like all these little hyphens, or I'm sorry, underscores that are in the file itself. That's going to actually throw me off later on. So I like to go ahead and just name it as is. And I believe the artist name was Corey. Let me go back here, find this guy's name. Cary Noki. So C-A-R-Y Noki. Now, I'm actually going to add in that bit of information that we saw that about the song as well, because if I decide, a year from now that, hey, I'd really like to go make my own little remix for this and maybe play it at a party, I'll need to have some information like the actual tempo itself. So let's actually add that to the file. You'll find that just keeping really good organizational skills about your files will become invaluable to you, especially since everything resides on the computer. It's not like we can actually get to and touch it. So BPM stands for beats per minute, was 128 beats per minute. It's in the key of C minor. Excellent. Now, I actually have some organization here for where I'm going to put this as well. Let me show you what it is that I do. And you don't actually have to follow my exact organizational skills, but you do need to have your own set of methodology that you will continue to use, because you'll just need to be professional. If somebody asks you to get the files, you got to know where those files are at. It's hard to get paid if you can't go produce the files themselves. So underneath my music folder here, I've gone ahead and the original artist here, I'm going to put it in artist remix files. Anytime I create a Pro Tools session, the Pro Tools session will be inside of this folder. And then some sounds and samples I'm going to use are going to be located here inside sounds and samples. So let's go ahead and let's do this now. Let's go ahead and get this into Pro Tools. Let's get it to the correct tempo, and then we're going to start using markers. I know we started talking about markers at the end of our last session, but we're going to go ahead and start doing that today as well. Some of you are having issues. It says I'm signed in. It's saying user not activated. And so Todd, what you need to do, they should have sent you an email to actually get yourself properly registered. So go back to whatever email address you used with the Indaba website and follow that link. That link will then activate your account. But yeah, they're not gonna allow you to actually. Oh, good one. Yeah, Michael Roberts. I've had this happen to students as well. Check your spam folder. A lot of times, for some reason, that message might get kicked back into the spam folder. If it does, no big deal. Just go find it there, and you can still actually activate your account from the spam folder itself. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I just had my neighbor stop by asking about a lost cat, so I muted the mic there for a second. Sorry. Yep, I'm back. Apologize. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get this started. I already opened up a session there, but let's go ahead and let's create a brand new Pro Tools session. So we're going to do that now. We'll go ahead and save whatever work we did in here, and we'll create a new session. So now I'm not expecting you guys to know all these quick keys that I'm going to use, but I'm going to start using some quick keys here. So let's go ahead and show my keys. So we'll bring up KeyCaster, which was an application I asked you guys to download. And this application really just helps us for when we're grading. That way, if you are using quick keys, great, we can see what it is you did. All right. Okay, got KeyCaster running. You should be able to see whatever keys, strokes I'm doing. Excellent. All right, so since we already have Pro Tools open, we'll just navigate to Pro Tools. Command-N is going to give us the new session dialog. Now, I could create a template, but I don't want to. We're going to go ahead and create a blank session. And one other thing I do want to do, let's go back to that music folder, and let's drop that file into the music folder. I want to actually keep it nice and organized. So there's the file we're going to use. In fact, if you look in here, I keep it as folders. So instead of just putting them there as a generic file, let's go ahead and let's copy that information. Let's create a new folder. Command V to paste the information, and let's actually put it in its folder. It just keeps it all nice and neat and organized. Plus, since I just copied that information, when I create a blank session, I'm actually going to paste that into the name. And notice that I'm saving it back into my Pro Tools folder. So again, that would be my music folder. It'll go inside of my Pro Tools folder. We're going to go ahead and paste the information, Command V. And I really don't need that to be in the actual song name, the extraneous information there, but I do want, obviously, the artist name and the song name. Cool. So we've got that. We'll save it in the correct folder. Save it. Excellent. Now it's time to actually import those files over into Pro Tools. Shift-Command-I. You guys remember this from first week. We'll go back into the artist remix files. We'll go back and find our artist here. There's Carrie. And here is the file. You know, one thing I didn't pay attention to when I created the session, I didn't actually see what I saved my session. So let's actually look at the session information. 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. I usually do mine at 44.1. We'll keep it as is for now. It's not going to be a big game changer of any kind. There you go. It looks like we could have changed the bit depth and sample rate midstream, and that's actually a newer feature to Pro Tools as well. Not a big deal. I just kind of want to see what I'd save my session as. It's kind of important to take a look at that information. So from some of you guys that are saying I talk really fast, I apologize. Just understand that these sessions will be archived, And since I'm starting from scratch tonight, it's going to be kind of important that we march forward. So if you have questions, typically I'm going to answer your questions towards the end of the session. I try to pay attention to the chat window, but many times that chat window kind of, if you guys start asking a lot of questions, I'm going to miss it because it's going to scroll up. So you may want to just reserve your questions towards the end of the session. Not a big deal. We're going to go ahead and import these files now, get them over into our session, and that way we can start using this information. So let's go ahead and get the Vox in now. Shift-Command-I. We'll go back. There's our artist, Coolio. We'll convert the files to the sessions format. Hit done. And now, obviously, take a look at this. This defaults going back to the audio files folder of our current session. So you don't actually have to change anything. Notice it's in the audio files for the current session that we're using. So we'll open it here. Awesome. Yeah, let's go ahead and create a new track. Might as well. Excellent. Now, if we hit return, it'll bring us back to the beginning of the session, and you can see we have, there's the artist. Now, if we were to create a kick pattern, just a 4/4 kick pattern that's based off of the current tempo, it's not going to sound too hot because it's actually going to be the wrong tempo. So what was the original tempo? Does anybody remember? We just saw it about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes ago. Yeah, 128 beats per minute. Now, how am I going to change this? Where do I go? So I'm going to pretend as though you guys would be navigating the session. Where would I change the current session's tempo? We saw this in last week's live stream. That's okay if your memory's foggy. It's right up top here. 128 beats per minute is what it needs to be. So see this little marker here? And if this isn't showing, this just means your tempo isn't in view. So if we say main ruler only, you won't see your tempo there. So you may actually need to make this field visible for you to actually see that. So there's your tempo. If we go and hover over the tempo, we can click on it, and it doesn't do anything. So if you control click on it, it'll actually show you the tempo window. So let's go ahead and let's make this 128, what we saw the tempo should be. Let's create a click track, and let's actually listen to the click track for a moment. And if this sounds right, then I'm actually going to start building the song immediately. So let's go ahead and do this. Click track menu, create click track, and let's take a listen to it. Pull up the transport, Command 1 on your numeric keys. Of course, you have to have a full keyboard to do that. And I can see 7 on my numeric keypad will toggle the metronome on and off. Let's go ahead and listen to it real quick.
How can we start out trying to save each other? Happily after's love and laughter, only to fall into a sweet disaster.
Sounds great to me. So if that's the case, let's go pull some of the assets. The assets we're going to use, I actually showed you guys, they're tied to your DigiDesign account. So I'm going to start importing files and start to work with this song immediately. To make it a little bit more interesting, I want to get rid of the click track. So let's show you where you get these files from. We go over to your Avid account. You simply want to log into your account. When you log into your account, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I actually did this in last week's session, but for those of us that weren't actually in last week's session, I want to at least cover it real quickly. Go ahead, log into your account, and then you want to go to View My Product Details once you get into your account. So under My Products, View My Product Details, and then whatever current version you're using, Pro Tools 10 here we see, look under the download sections, and all these files here, this is 8.5 gigs worth of free loops for you to use with your final projects. I want you to use those because you're going to see me import these. Download these one at a time. If you don't download them one at a time, you're going to find that you might have errors downloading the files. If you have your original installation disks, these files are on there as well. It'll probably be a lot easier and quicker to grab them off the original installation disks and get those over into your session. So here's what we're going to do. I'm actually going to go audition the song right now, but I'm going to audition the song with some files. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to get rid of my MIDI metronome. Just basically make sure this is no longer highlighted in blue. And we actually want to use files, but let's go listen to the files before we import them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, you'll see I'm changing the size of my windows. I'll explain why here in a moment. We're actually going to use one of the methods that you guys saw for importing files into Pro Tools, and that's going to be your workspace browser. Option semicolon will bring you to your workspace browser. If you don't remember the quick key, not a big deal. Look underneath your Windows menu. You'll see here you have Workspace. So why am I using the Workspace to import? Well, because the Workspace will actually allow me to use the files and play them back in tempo with my session, even if the file that I want to import is not the session's tempo. In other words, even if it's not 128 beats per minute, it's still going to play back at the correct tempo. So it'll let me audition the sound before I actually have it in my session, which will let me know if it's going to actually be in context with the song or not. So you want to go to your users folder. You see my name there, so you'd find your name. Okay, I noticed I saved everything underneath my music folder. And then I have here, let's see, artist remix files was up top. We're not going to use that. We're going to use sounds and samples is where I stored everything. And I put all those files that I just showed you into Avid Materials. So here are all the same files that I just showed you. Let's go to Dance DJ because it's 128 beats per minute. We're probably going to end up using something kind of dancey. So let's find here under drums. These are all individual hits. We might want to try that. Let's just try see if we can find a house loop just to start us off. There's house beats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start Pro Tools. And if I just check off this little MIDI metronome symbol, all of these files will play back in tempo with the song so we can figure out if this is really going to work for us or not. Hit play in the session. We'll go back over here into our workspace browser, which I conveniently hid and I shouldn't have done.
Hey there, lover. How can we start out trying to save each other? Happily after love and laughter, only to fall into a sweet disaster. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words could never hurt me. Love me, leave me, boys don't cry. And we both know this just ain't working. I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I'm gonna love you, my sweet disaster.
All right, so you guys can see that, yeah, Charles is saying it's similar to the loops in Logic. Basically, it's already figuring out the tempo for us, and it's going to go ahead and audition these sounds.
So sweet, so sweet, so sweet.
Sorry about that. Vocals popped in back in on us. I noticed there were a couple loops that I liked. Like the very first one, I thought sounded great right away, and there are a couple others. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to loop a section right here, and it's just so that I can go ahead and grab a couple of those, and then we're going to get working. I'm going to start creating bass lines right away. We're going to actually go back today. I'm going to show you. Now, this is kind of cheating, right? I'm just grabbing somebody else's loops, but you're going to find that this will be a really quick and easy way just to get yourself up and running. And one of the most frustrating things with using any DAW is if you don't find the creativity in the DAW, you would just want to, quit and give up. So I want to show you guys how to get up and running really quickly. Let's take a look and let's grab that first house beat. And there was one other that I liked, but let's just go ahead and throw this in my session. Notice I'm just going to drag it to my tracks list. When I do that, it creates a track for me, and it puts it at the beginning of the session. So if I hit return, you'll find that it's actually going to be back at the very beginning of the session. Now notice that, remember you guys saw me resize my windows earlier? I resized it because I wanted this workspace browser to always be kind of popping up in the back. That way I could quickly get to it. And that way we may not actually end up using that particular loop, but it's always there for us, and we just kind of have a starting off point. So we've got that first loop in there. I liked a couple others. Let me go back and audition them real quick. So I'm going to start play with the session.
Sweet is so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. Let the cute face fool you. Just did you pop potential? Sweet is so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. Don't let the cute face fool you. Just did you pop potential? Sweet is so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. Don't let the cute face fool you. Just did you pop potential? Sweet is so sweet, so sweet, so sweet. Don't let the cute face fool you. Just did you pop potential? Sweet is.
I tell you what, so that we're not just sitting here auditioning loops all evening long, let's go ahead and just use what we have, and we're just going to use it as a stencil, okay? We're maybe not even probably potentially going to keep this. But notice I'm going to show you how to quickly paste it out throughout the entire song. What I have right here is I have an 8-bar loop, but I can quickly just Command D several times, paste it out for the length of the song. Bada bing, bada boom, there you go. Now we actually have a bed. We have a bed of rhythm that'll last throughout the entirety of the song. All right, cool. So what I really need to do to really kind of kickstart this whole project is I need to go back in and listen to the song and figure out where things are at and create markers. Now let's show markers because they're not actually currently being viewed. That way we can see them on our timeline, and let's start creating them. And this will show you how you can really stencil out and create a skeleton of what the song really currently is. I don't really need to view my click track anymore. I'm probably not even going to use it, so let's go ahead and hide it and make it inactive. Notice that it hid it from view. It's off over in our tracks list. If I ever want to see it again, I can click on it, and then to reactivate it, just right-click it and then make active. So again, I'm probably not going to need a click track anymore. I already have the tempo nailed, so we'll hide it and make it inactive, and we'll just go based off of what we have. So I'm at the very beginning of the song, bar 1 beat. Well, let's go ahead and create a marker now. I'm going to hit my Enter key. Now, if you don't have the an Enter key, you can also hold down on your computer. If you hold down, I believe it's the function key and hit the return key, yeah, it'll actually work as the Enter key. Now, what I did is I held the function key, which is on your very bottom left-hand corner of your Mac laptop. And then notice that your return key on your computer, it also has the word Enter highlighted at the very top left. And that actually takes the function and actually gives you some of the functionality of what the numeric keypad has. That's one way to create a marker. I could also do it with this one little plus icon. So I'm going to make a marker. I'm not worried about saving any of the Zoom presets right now. We just want to call this intro. There's the intro of the song. Now, I can already see that we've got some vocals going on through here, so I need to figure out, I'm almost sure if this is going to follow song structure, these are going to be the verses, but I kind of need to listen to them to kind of get an idea. So let's listen to it.
Hey there, lovers, how can we start trying to save each other? Happily after love and laughter, only to fall into a sweet disaster.
Okay, so that's first verse. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the next 8 measures, and I bet you anything this is going to be second verse. Let's go ahead and give it a listen. And then I bet you after that we're going to kick into the chorus. Let's give it another listen.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words could never hurt me. Love me, leave me, boys don't cry, and we both know it's just one.
Okay, so it sounds like we're right. I need to figure out for sure, though. So let's listen to the next 8 bars, and let's actually listen. This should be chorus.
I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I'm gonna love you myself.
Now, to really kind of know, we're probably going to have to listen to this next section. If I'm looking at just the waveforms alone, notice this waveform here and that waveform there look very similar. So if I go and I listen to this section, I bet you anything we're going to be listening to the actual chorus of the song. And if that's the case, it looks like we have pre-chorus here and then chorus here.
I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever.
Okay, that's pretty much what's going on, which means the actual first chorus, the first verse is probably here. And the reason I'm doing it this way, take a look here. I'm going to zoom in on this. Option F will zoom in so we can see what's going on. This little bit that we have at the beginning right here, this is really just an effect, an audio effect. And I'll actually show you how they created this. It's a really cool little effect. It's basically a reverse reverb effect. But the actual landing, the words start here. And if we block it off for 8 measures, in fact, I'm just going to tell it here, 8 measures. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it right there. I'm going to cut it. And the only reason I'm going to cut it is so that I have a visual reference. I just separated it. So then if that's the case, if we go back to the beginning, there's our intro. This is our first verse. So I'm just going to put my selector here, get my old selector tool out, make sure we're at bar 6, and hit the enter key. We're going to call this verse 01. V-R-S-E-O-1. Cool. And that lets me know this is over here is going to be verse 02. Enter. V-E-R-S-E-O-2. Cool. And then I already know that after verse 02 really should only be 8 bars. So if we select this and I say, well, notice my backslash key. I'm just hitting backslash. Again, you'll have to have the numeric keypad to pull this off. But this is showing me over to the side. It's going down my start, end, and length. So if I want 8 measures, I just go to the length, hit in 8. So there is my verse, which would mean right here at the end, this should be where the actual chorus starts. Let's listen to it because I have a feeling that it might have a pre-chorus to it, but I'm not positive. So let's give it a quick listen.
I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I'm gonna love you, my sweet disaster.
Yeah, that's chorus. And notice something else here, guys. This is kind of important. When I lined up my beat, my rhythm here, it's actually off. It needs to be where everything else is at. So let's select. If I hit Shift Return, it'll select back to the beginning. And I actually want to select everything from here to the end. So Shift Option Return, hit Delete. And let's actually bump this over where it should be. I could have probably just moved everything if I wanted to, but I'm just showing you kind of just some methodology on rhymes and reason on why I'm doing what I'm doing. Now, if I wanted to, too, let's go back to the beginning. If we wanted a little intro, well, I could copy this over. So let's do that then. So we'll bring this here. I will option drag this here, which copies it. There you go. Now we have a little lead in for the intro. There's our first verse. This is our second verse. And here is where the chorus starts. So let's go ahead and put that in. So C-H-O-R-U-S-O-1. Now, this looks really rudimentary so far, right? But when I start pulling pieces in and writing parts, this will make it really easy because when I write sections for the verse, I'm going to take whatever MIDI information I write and just copy and paste it to the sections. Whenever I write my MIDI or bass line for the chorus section, I'm just going to copy and paste it to those sections, which means it's going to show you a way of making music where you'll understand that it can become cookie cutter, but the person that's listening to it is never going to see what kind of work you did to make things happen. And this makes it really easy. Notice here too, since I lined my beat up with where the song section should start, I already know right now without even listening to this is going to be verse 03. So V-E-R-S-E 03. And since we know that the verses were 8 measures long, well, I'm going to make a selection of 8 measures. 8, enter. We'll cut that here. The only reason I'm cutting it is so that I can see, okay, well, it's really easy to tell that this is going to be verse 2. So we'll set that up. We'll get my old selector tool out. Pardon me. Enter. V-E-R-S-E. That's going to be verse 04. And then, of course, what comes after verse 04? the chorus again. But I have a feeling there's a pre-chorus to this because it's a little bit different from what we had on the back end over here. So let's give it a little listen to. I'm actually going to listen to it from the verse section. I just want to hear what's going on.
Let the cute face fool ya. She did you perfect until she pursued ya. All over town, she got the dirty rumors. Broken from the start. Your graffiti's on the walls of my heart. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words could never hurt me. Love me, leave me, boys don't cry. And we both know this just ain't work. I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I'm gonna love you, my sweet disaster.
Yeah, nailed it. Okay, so if that's the case, this is pre-chorus. Notice I'm just basically using the loop too to kind of define where these things are happening. Pre-chorus really doesn't happen right at that downbeat. It really kind of happens here. There's a little bit of lead into the word that he says there. We'll listen to it.
Sticks and stones may
We're going to go ahead and mark it for being right there. So that's going to be pre-chorus. Actually, just to keep congruity, I'm actually going to list the pre-chorus as starting here. Pre, C-H-O-R-S, chorus 01. And if that's the case, then here is where our chorus begins. Enter C-H-O-R-U-S. I believe that was my second chorus. Yes, second chorus. All right. Now, all I'm doing so far is I'm just creating markers, and this will make sense here. I noticed some of you guys are saying that I'm moving really fast. I'm moving really fast just because this can get boring. You guys don't want to see me doing this. You want to see me doing creative stuff. As soon as we get the song stenciled out, which we're more than halfway done with it, then we'll get to move over into some more creative stuff, and I want you guys to be entertained. So, all right. Let's take a listen to what we got here. Looks like we're going to have another verse. Let's listen to it just to make sure. You know what, folks? This whole section right here is going to work as the bridge because it's totally distinct and different from the rest of the song. In fact, it looks like it might repeat towards the end. This was probably intended to be a dance track, and dance tracks sometimes don't always follow the traditional verse, chorus. So let's take a listen here and listen through it a little bit deeper. Okay, yeah, totally untraditional, but that's okay. We're going to work it out. So this whole section here, from here to here, and in fact, going back up until about here. So if we actually just stay in bars and beats, you're going to see that this whole section right here, I don't want to go back and audition it again, but you can actually see this was all just basically small effects. So right up until right there, that's where our next verse kicks in. If we were to go back and just audition it, you'll hear what I'm talking about. That way you'll see I'm not just pulling this out of my hat here. Now, so this is where that's going to end up going. So let's actually pull up our memory locations window. We're already at verse 4 was our last one, so this will be verse 5. Intro, VERS, verse 05. Okay. So that's our verse. It sounds like our last verse. We have a little effects section coming in here, which basically they're just doing some kind of weird stuttering. And then it sounds like right towards the end, we got the last chorus kicking back in. Let's listen to it again. Now I missed a step here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this last one because I forgot to mark off my bridge section. So let's delete this last location. Let's go back and denote that bridge section. In that bridge, we said it happened all the way through to here. Let's go ahead and adjust this slightly, my selection just a little bit, because that's our whole bridge. And in fact, there's all this weird effect stuff going on there. So let's call this the bridge starting here. Enter BRIDGE. Cool. Now, the reason I went and erased that is because I actually wanted to keep these in order. The reason I wanted to keep them in order is this is the memory locations window. Command 5 on the numeric keypad will show and hide your memory locations window. And notice whenever you click on a memory location, it'll automatically take you to that section in the song. So that no matter what, if the producer says to me, hey, I want you to go back to verse 2, I click on verse 2, hit play. By the way, this will happen during playback as well. I went ahead and turn down the volume. If I want to go to verse 3, just simply click on verse 3. We're immediately put at verse 3. If I want to go to the bridge, click on the bridge. It takes us to the bridge immediately. So this is really cool because now that we've mapped out the song itself, now we can really get around the song and fly around. I know it seems weird that you guys saw me starting to just, stencil out the song, but it'll really make sense now when you can see it in action. And that's kind of what I want to see, what I wanted to impress with you guys. That way when I start writing these parts, they didn't give us any parts, so we have to noodle them from scratch, which is actually going to be kind of fun. It's my favorite way to do a remix. So, but what you'll notice I'm going to do is I'm going to go write little bass parts for the verse and then the chorus, and I'm just going to copy and paste them over to the sections that we need them to go at, and then there you go. We've got those sections. So that'll make it really, really cool. All right. Here, let's get back to our last verse portion here. I believe we decided our last verse was here, so that's going to be verse 05. E-R-S-E 05. Excellent, cool. And then the other thing we had, this is not a chorus. This is basically going to be an outro. Let's figure out where this ends, and I believe it's going to end after 8 bars, so we'll just put in 8 measures. Yeah, and you can see that it basically ends right there, and we're going into basically an outro section. So that's what I'm going to call it. We're going to call it outro from here on out. So O-U-T-R-O, because from there on out, he's really just kind of repeating a phrase. So check it out. The song's completely basically stenciled out. Now, what you just saw me do, kind of boring. Yeah, I created a bunch of markers. You saw me delete some. But now that I have the song stenciled out, this will allow us to actually be creative. Have you ever sat down with a keyboard, you found a really cool synth sound, you started jamming around with it, and you came up with a little cool riff, and you're like, wow, this could almost be a song. 9 times out of 10, it really could be a song. You just got to figure out what part of the song that is. Is it a verse? Is it a chorus? Or is it the bridge? There's only 3 really big chunks in a song. The verse and the chorus are 2 of the main parts of your song. The verse is the section of the song that usually is going to be somewhat slower in nature because it's telling a story. And then the chorus of the song, if we go listen to the chorus, it's going to explain what he's actually talking about. So if we go to the first chorus and actually just listen to the words, I believe he's talking about 6 sticks and stones might break my bones. So it sounds like he's been chapped by somebody, and he's saying, hey, look, your words aren't going to hurt me, and I'm going to keep on living, and we're going to keep on going and growing. So that's the theme of the song. And the other portions of the song, the verse, is where he's telling you the story of what really happened to him. So if that's the case, we're going to write our song basically the same way. We only have 2 main chunks, an A section, a B section. In other words, the A section meaning verses and then B sections being chorus. Since there's only really 2 big chunky parts, that's the way we're going to write it. All right. We've got our song nailed out here in memory locations. Really important that you guys know how to do that. You guys have already were required to do that in your screen capture for last evening. So let's go ahead and let's write some sections. I tell you what. Let's start off with some bass line for right now. Command F will actually fill screen. Somebody's asking about Command F. So if I select that and I want that to fill screen, or if I just select across a small portion here and I want to see that, Command F will actually fill the screen with that selection. So you'll find that I do that a lot instead of having to zoom in real far. If I want to go find just one little section, I'll just highlight it. I'm sorry, Option F. Option F will fill screen. I said Command F. I apologize. Yep, Option F. Okay. Tell you what, let's pull up a virtual instrument. Let's pull up a virtual instrument that you guys all have. Shift Command End. Let's pull up a stereo. Tell you what, let's show you the old school way first. I'm going to create a stereo aux input and Shift Command N to create a new track, and we're going to create a MIDI track. Now, the reason I created two different tracks is I want to show you the old school way of doing this first. We're going to show off some features that you may or may not be familiar with. I'm going to get rid of some features that are kind of choking up my mix window. Not really interested in seeing the instrument for right now. We'll get there in a minute. Okay, so let's actually hide all tracks except for the tracks I'm going to show off to you guys. So the MIDI track and the aux track. I'm going to go ahead and label this bass and bass aux. Now, we truthfully could have done this on just one track alone, but I kind of need to press a point here, and that, yeah, Todd, sorry about that. Command F is fades. I was calling out the wrong key command earlier. It was Option F to fill screen. If I made a really small selection and I wanted to fill screen with that selection, it'd be Option F. And it's something I do a lot, so you'll find that I probably will call out key commands. Option F. There you go. Cool. Back to our mix window. And let's get rid of that vocal piece. We don't really need to see that right now. Now, I want to deal with basses, so let's go pull up a virtual instrument that you all have called Vacuum. So this Vacuum basically replicates an analog synthesizer. An analog synthesizer basically is not going to produce a real good tuba or French horn or piano. It will try to synthesize that sound, but it won't really come close. In fact, if we go to the bass category, we're going to go find some bass here. And now that I've got the bass set up here, it's not really ready to trigger yet. If I play my keyboard off to the side, it's not doing anything yet. And that's because this MIDI track doesn't understand what it needs to control. So I'm going to route it to go to the Vacuum. I'll record on the track. Okay, I want something that's a little bit more a tubby, kind of a rounder bass. So notice here I'm in the bass section. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the little plus symbol and play my keyboard slightly a couple times here. That's kind of tubby and nice. I like that. Let's listen to a couple other sounds. I'll remember that that's the second one. Not bad. Probably not the best sound in the world, but not bad either. So what we could do actually, just to kind of get ourselves started, since we don't have any bass line to follow at all, I could actually just go in and write in some notes. And it said it was in the key of C minor. So let's change ourselves to Notes View. Cool, we're in Notes View. I'm going to pull myself up to this first verse. That way we have some vocals to go behind it. I'm going to change myself to eighth notes. And we're going to zoom in a little bit further. And I'm just going to plot in, okay, here's our middle C, right? And it's C minor, which means it's going to be down a step, half step. So let's go ahead and let's just throw in a couple of those bass notes. And I actually want to put them on the grid itself, so let me do this. Let's get rid of that note. Let's put it in grid mode. And that way we can just throw it right on the grid. And notice actually it's going to draw it in at the actual grid itself as well. So this is kind of, I'm just going to put every other eighth note for right now. We'll loop it real quick. So notice I just basically just went down a half step, and it actually didn't sound too bad. So I'm going to option drag this, and we'll listen to the next section here. And all I did was just put it in eighth notes. I'm probably going to want to do something a little bit more creative than this, but I'm just trying to show you how easy it is to actually just start writing parts in.
Hey there, lover. How can we start trying to save that lover?
So if we just duplicate this off throughout this whole section, there we go. All right, and we'll go ahead and just select 8 measures and just take a listen to what we just created. This may or may not stick, guys. I'm just kind of trying to show you how quick and easy you can come up with a bass line.
Hey there, lover. How can we start trying to save each other? Happily after love and laughter, only to fall into a sweet disaster. Hey there, lover. How can we start trying to save each other?
Now that I already have a pattern, we can do another really cool little maneuver that I like to do from time to time, and that is to actually just go through. You're right, it is C flat. But if you're right, it actually is C flat instead of C minor. You're absolutely right. But you'll notice that the actual pattern that we use, it's not a bad pattern. It doesn't sound bad at all. However, I'm not really happy with the sound. So since I've already got a pattern written out, we can actually go and just pull up the plugin itself and actually start rotating through sounds. Not too bad.
Only to fall into a sweet disaster. Hey there, lover. How can we start trying to save each other? Happily after love and laughter, only to fall into a sweet disaster. Hey there.
Okay, cool. So you get the idea. Once you've picked a pattern, you can go and apply whatever sound you want to it. By the way, this is kind of this is a totally interesting pattern. We just basically drew in a bunch of eighth notes. You can get away with that if you want, but I'd prefer if you be a little bit more creative. For instance, if we really want this to pull itself off, we probably want to do something a little bit more creative than this. So if we actually go and just take a listen to our pattern, we can throw in some extra notes here and there that actually give it a little bit more character. The sound that we chose, I think I actually prefer the original sound first. Somebody asked me a really good question. That was, what's the idea of having the aux track? The reason we have the aux track is I need you to understand that MIDI is not audio, right? So here's the MIDI track. The MIDI is actually triggering this virtual instrument. The virtual instrument is on the aux track. So the aux track is where we're actually hearing the sound. So you're actually hearing the sound on this track. This is where the sound source is coming from. That's going to be important if you actually need to record it down as audio. Which we'll do here in a moment, but I just want to kind of give you guys a heads up on what's actually going on. Now, I truthfully could have done this on one track and one track alone. There's one track that actually combines both MIDI and audio into one track. What kind of track am I talking about? I'm going to throw this question out to the class. Instrument tracks. So let's go ahead and delete these, and let's do that now. I'm going to go back, and I'm not going to even worry about the pattern that I created. It was so simple. We're going to do something a little bit more creative than that particular. So let's go ahead and show this off. Now, the reason I showed this off, the MIDI track and the aux track, is when I pull up this instrument track, if you're not familiar with MIDI not being audio, you're actually going to see MIDI and audio happening on the same exact track. So if you're seeing MIDI and audio happen on the same track, it's going to become kind confusing for you. So let's actually do that now. We'll go ahead and delete these tracks for right now. By the way, this might be a good point to actually save our session since we actually do have some progress here. Let's save it. And in fact, I'm going to do a file save as. That way, if we have any kind of hiccups, we can come back to it. So this will be version 01. Cool. Let's create our instrument track. Shift-Command-N. We'll create a stereo instrument track. And let's pull up the same virtual instrument. So let's pull up our vacuum. Notice underneath instrument, down at the bottom here, we have vacuum. We went to our bass sound. And I actually didn't mind that second bass patch. To create that pattern, just to give you a quick recap of what we did, we were on verse 1. I just zoomed into verse 1. Zoomed into verse 1, I changed myself over into eighth notes so we could actually see what was going on. Changed it from clips to notes so we could actually draw these notes in. And we just did every other note being an eighth note. And then to give it a little bit of a change, I just basically brought it down a half step. Oops. I wanted to option drag that. If I option drag it, it's actually going to copy it for me. So we just copy or just Command D, Command V, and just drop it. Make sure all the notes are actually highlighted. There we go, whole step. So now we have this little basic pattern. I'm going to solo this out, and let's actually do a little work to this so it can be a little bit more interesting than just a static eighth note. And I think it's actually going to sound a little bit better if we actually change it to 16th notes and get a little bit of variation in here. Cool, I'm fine with that for now. We may decide to go back and do something a little bit different with that later on. But you can see here for our verse, there you go. We're just going to duplicate that out. There you go. If we change this over into 1-bar increments, that'll help us to better select it. That way, if I want to go ahead and duplicate this on over to the next section, we'll duplicate it. Command-C to copy it. Let's go and find our next verse. Command-V. We can duplicate that as well. Probably going to want to do something a little bit different to change it up through our chorus and bridge sections, but you get the idea. All right, so for our chorus section, we'll go ahead and highlight, oh, what the heck, 8 bars. Option F to zoom in. Change myself back to notes view. Okay, we're still in notes view. Just want to change the actual grid resolution. Go to eighth notes. So chorus just needs to be slightly different. We started off here. And I basically just did this a similar pattern, but just slightly different. We'll go back and listen to it. A little bit too much of a running, galloping bass line for me. If we listen back to that, you'll find that, I don't know, that's kind of boring. We're still at eighth notes, so we probably should change the length slightly on a couple of these and find something a little bit more interesting. Again, I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here, guys. And how about this? Get rid of every other note, similar to what we did before. Well, let's take a listen now. Sometimes I just like to audition it and adjust it while it's auditioning. I tell you what, here's where we actually need to audition it with the vocals to see if it actually works with the performance. It may not work at all, so we might be working on something that is meaningless. Let's take a listen.
I hate to break it to you. 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 The pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing left to mark. I wanna say it now.
Not exactly feeling that whole section for the chorus. We're probably going to want to go back and change it up a little bit, but you get the idea. I'm probably going to want to have a little bit more fun with this and get a little bit more time in it. I noticed that the vocals were going up in some sections where my bass line was going down. That could work in my favor or it could not work in my favor. Not really sure. Tell you what, guys, I'm going to take a quick, small 5-minute break, and it's just simply because Mother Nature's calling, so I'll be right back. Oh, much better. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your patience. Um, okay, let's take a listen to this chorus section. I wasn't really happy with it. I'm going to go ahead and select 8 measures. Notice I'm using the backslash key, hitting 8. It selects much larger than I needed to. Looks like I should have hit 4. So let's go back 4 measures. That was our starting of our chorus. Not really totally satisfied with what was going on here. Let's take a listen and see how this stacks up with the vocals. The verse section wasn't really that bad. I actually want to let you guys hear that. Let's go back. Oh, here's another cool thing that we can show you guys. Since we have the memory locations already there, if I want to get back to verse 2, notice verse 2 is memory location 2. So if I hit period to period, it's going to automatically take me to that location. So another really cool way of using these memory locations, then go down and select 8 measures. There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off period to period. Just want you guys to hear what we've got going so far.
Hey there, lover. How can we start out trying to save each other? Happily after love and laughter, only to fall into a sweet disaster. Stones may break my bones, but your words could never hurt me. Love me, leave me, boys don't cry, and we both know it's just ain't working. I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark.
Okay, it wasn't too bad for this first beginning of our chorus section, but notice when the words started changing towards the end, it just didn't stack up. So that's where we need to work on. Notice that when you're going through music and you're working on things like this, you want to find what does work and leave it, and then find what doesn't work and go correct that. So I didn't like the back half here. So we're only dealing with 4 measures. There's only 2 measures that I have to focus on, but let's give it a listen to, and let's figure out what it was that didn't work and fix that.
I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left.
Yeah, he goes up. He goes up, and so we probably need to follow and go up as well. So if I grab the same notes, I don't think this is going to work either, but let's just give it a whirl.
I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark.
No, let's start it off here. I think we just need a completely different pattern here for the tail end of this. And we could probably go ahead and repeat that afterwards too. So we already kind of had this little thing going to where we did 8 notes and we skipped every other. We could probably even just try something kind of unorthodox. Let's go ahead and delete what we have here. I'm going to set myself back to 8th notes just so I can kind of mimic what we already had going and use that as a launching point. So all I did was just have that kind of a stuttered pattern going. We'll duplicate it out. We'll select that area, Option F to center it and fill our screen with this section. I'm going to get rid of my memory locations window for right now, Command 5 on the numeric keypad. And let's actually listen to what it really should do and see if we can pull off something a little bit more convincing. I'm going to go back to the 16th note because we had luck filling in little ghost notes with just the standard pattern, so that seemed to really work.
I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring.
It sounds like we're at a totally different key here, so that's what's fighting us right here. So we're going to listen here, and again, I'm just going to move these notes around. So you guys are going to see me do some random things here. Let's just see what works.
I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark.
I'm not super happy with this. In fact, I'm kind of disappointed in it, but that's all right. We're going to work it out. 8 measures. Actually, 4 measures. Center my selection here.
I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark. I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing left to mark.
Yeah, there's definitely a key change going on. I'm hearing it, and you guys are hearing it. Let's figure out what's going on here. Didn't sound too bad, but it's still not what I wanted. 2 measures. Same two measures we've been working on and fighting with. So let's just undo some of what we did, get back just to our standard pattern, figure out what our key is. I'm just making a selection here, so we'll have the same material rotating around.
I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle. I hate to break it to you, but nothing's sparkle.
Now here is where we could do octave if we want. That was a good thought. Now, if it was a classic traditional song, what we could actually do is we could actually go find MIDI information about the song itself. Since this is a brand new song, probably not going to find information about this particular track. Karaoke Sweet Disaster. You know, Michael, I'm going to follow your lead here. Let's try it out. There's your C4. It's kind of high for bass register, but let's give it a whirl. So you're saying, okay, hang on a second. Let me go grab that. So you said C sharp. I'm gonna actually, let's stay down here in this register for right now. So C sharp. Hang on a second. You're scrolling off screen for me here. It's making me have to scroll back up. By the way, take a look at this. For those of you that have a hard time finding notes on the keyboard here, if you actually hover over a specific key or actually hover over a note, Pro Tools will show you right underneath the start and length here. If you want to look in this field here, it'll actually show me exactly what note I'm on. So here we're at E flat 3. So you said C sharp. So we're at C sharp 3. I think you said F sharp 3. And then G sharp. And let's just bring ourselves right back down using the same notes. And we'll put in a little 16th here. And we'll just copy this over, see what it sounds like. So let's give this a whirl, see what it sounds like.
I hate to break it to you. the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever.
Ooh, that doesn't sound too hot. Yeah, I don't mind trying stuff out either. So, not a problem. Let's see. Hey, Michael, give me 1 second here, and I think we're probably having a hard time just communicating all together. So, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and activate your mic because I think you were trying to tell me something about the pattern here. So, you're going to be live here in a second. You're now live on your mic. If you want to go ahead and talk, you can.
All right, so I appreciate it, and thank you very much for acknowledging it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If you've got some creative input, I'm all about it.
Okay, well, I was noticing the key change at the time, so I was, figuring maybe 4 beats of a C sharp in that first measure right there, and kind of walking it.
So four beat C sharp.
Correct, and then walk that right up to F sharp. 4 beats there.
4 beats there.
Sharp, maybe 6 beats. Fast 2 can walk it back there. I don't know, conjunct matter back down to the root chord if it's looping back to the beginning.
Okay.
That measure's good. That measure's good.
We'll leave that little accent there that'll jump us back down. Is this basically what you're looking for?
Well, there's 2 other measures, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, those last 2 measures, let's take that one note out that you put in the last and
that little accent?
Right, let's take that out. And then the last 2, we'll start with G sharp and just walk on G sharp all the way through to maybe beat 6.
Let's get back to my 8th note, sorry. And then walk right back down to our C, right?
Let's keep that G sharp going throughout that whole measure.
And
then go to the next one.
And you wanted to go back to C, right?
Because this is the last measure right here.
Yeah.
Keep going G sharp.
Okay.
Now let's take that note there. You can bring it down. I don't know. Bring it down to F sharp.
To help walk it back down.
Right.
Let's check this out. I like it. Let's listen to it.
I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I hate to break it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to break it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud.
I tell you what, let's keep it for now. And I want to. Yeah.
I didn't notice that at the beginning. I apologize for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
2 measures. There was another key change. I don't know if that bass is going to work with that. We might have to go down an octave because he actually went up an octave saying, say it now, say it now.
Yeah.
So that's nice. And then, no, that's just 2 more. Yep. That was the last 2 measures. I would probably change those last 2.
So you wanted these up?
you went up to the octave, all the way to the octave of C sharp. So I assume if we break it back down to C sharp.
C sharp?
Yes, C sharp 3. I see what you're saying. And that's slow. You can just either bring in your C sharp or and we try that.
Yeah, let's give this a run. Now, there might be a bit of an echo because when I'm playing, yeah, somebody else mentioned there's a little bit of an echo going on. So probably what it is, I'm going to mute your mic back again because what's happening is I'm playing it, so people are hearing your mic, and there's just a delay in the time that it takes to come from my machine and then come out of your machine, and then everyone's picking that back up. So I'm just going to mute your mic while I play this, and then I'll make you active it again here. Hey, by the way, I like the input, man, because I actually really enjoy working with a partner because there's times like you just saw me where I start to lose either the inspiration or the feeling for the song or figuring out which way it's going. So I really do appreciate the input. So let's listen to this and I'll pull your mic back up, okay?
Okay.
All right, talk to you in a second. Yeah, excellent input. Nice job, guys.
I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I hate to bring it to you.
You know what we're also probably going to have to do? We're going to probably have to continue this for another 2 measures because we're only at measure 2. Michael, I'm going to go ahead and bring your mic up because I liked your input. So I'm thinking this is at least going to have to come back around and resolve. So if that's the case, we might as well, maybe we could use our original pattern at the beginning here. What do you think? You feeling it?
I believe that will work perfect.
Command V. Let's take a look. We'll listen to it. I'm going to mute your mic again. I'll bring you back up, though.
Okay.
I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I'm gonna love you, my sweet disaster. I hate to bring it to you, the pain is sharp as ever. I hate to bring it to you, but nothing lasts forever. I wanna say it now, wanna say it loud. I'm gonna love you, my sweet disaster.
Yeah, nice job. Hey, nice one, Michael. I appreciate it. I've unmuted your mic, so you're live. What'd you think? Anything else you feel like doing with it? You're all right with that?
I think I would love to definitely incorporate maybe doing bass synth with that bass pattern because now it's kind of raw. So maybe some type of reverb bass to build the ambiance of the piece a little bit. That way you don't have to add, too much more. I would probably layer another bass part.
That sounds cool. We could definitely do that.
The same pattern, just change the synth, the same exact pattern, just change the synth of the actual sound.
Excellent. In fact, I'll go ahead and I'll do that. We'll do that, and then I'll record it, and then we'll wrap for the night. So I'm going to go ahead and mute your mic back, only because it could just it could get distracting at times. But I really appreciate your input. That was excellent advice, and I like where you went with it. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice job, man. Cool. Well, excellent class participation. I like it when you guys chime in like that. That worked out great. In fact, I'm going to pick up what Michael did. Now, to show you this song is basically done with a bass line, take a look at our patterns here. All I have to do is copy and paste this. In fact, instead of me having to go highlight all those notes, this is why Pro Tools defaults to them actually being in clips view. Since that's the chorus right there, and I can see I have 8 bars, I can just separate that chorus. And then with the grabber tool, time grabber tool, as long as I put myself in 1 bar increments, I can just option drag this to where it belongs. Well, it belongs there. And then I already have my verses nailed out as well. I just take this verse section. And in fact, for the bridge, I'm just going to go back to using our verse section. First section needs to probably stay there as well. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to put this there. I'm going to option drag it, which will copy it for the verse that starts there. So we're continuing with the pattern. That way the bass doesn't drop out throughout the song. Let me move this off to the side for just a second because we're going to end up pulling that chorus back to where it's at. But if I go ahead and duplicate this section, I think I'm starting to see where we might run into a problem. Let's go ahead and duplicate it though. Then I'll bring my chorus back over to where it belongs. And then if we want, we can pick up in the bridge section with what we already used for verses. We could have done something different if we wanted to. But just showing you, we basically need to get back to the same section here. And for this small section here where it really is, there's some stuff going on with the vocals. I probably would want to do something a little bit different. But notice basically the bass is done for the song. So now all I have to do is go find lead sections that complement our bass sections. If we pull up the vocals again, you'll see that there were vocal effects happening through that section. In fact, let's go ahead and name this track because this track is very nondescript. So we'll call this lead vox. That way we know exactly what that is. This is our original drum loop, so we'll call this loop A. And the loop A section, quite honestly, guys, we're going to change that out next week. We're going to end up rewriting it. But I really liked Michael's idea. His idea was to basically keep the pattern the same, but use a different sound here. So that's what we're actually going to do. Let me finish the end of the song there, up to the outro. Cool. So the easiest way to do this, notice this was our original bass. So we're going to call this bass A. And then the easiest way to pull off what Michael's asking us to do would be to, well, first of all, we could actually add some automation to this. What I want to let you guys hear that we could have done that would give this a little bit more liveliness. We pull up our bass sound. He's right. It's very stagnant sounding. So we could actually automate that. So put that on my hit list for somebody said that I just lost audio. I'm still seeing audio on my end, so chances are if you log back out of the class and log back in, you should back up with audio. I could go ahead and add automation to this. I'm going to hold that off for next week just because we're starting to run out of time. I want to leave you guys some time for questions. But what I'm going to do is I really liked his idea. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this track, and we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to duplicate this track. So we'll duplicate the entire track, everything, which you guys saw, what you guys had to do in week 1. And we'll go in here to the vacuum, and maybe we don't even use the vacuum. Maybe we use a completely different synth. Why don't we go use your expand? Every one of you guys have the synths. Everything I'm going to use, I want to make sure you guys have. So here's expand. So when expand pulls up, expand, think of expand like a Triton or a Yamaha Motif. This particular plugin has all kinds of sounds. It'll have real pianos. It'll have synthesized pianos. And it should have some brass sections. They may not sound exactly like a good brass section, but let's go find some bass sounds. So we'll go into here. We'll find synth basses. Notice that I'm going to go ahead and mute my other pattern here for right now. And let's go ahead and just listen to what we've got for the first patch. And then I'm going to use my plus minus symbols to start rotating through patches. That's actually not too bad. Let's see what it sounds like layered together. And Michael actually mentioned using some reverb. Now, we could apply reverb inside of Pro Tools, or we could actually apply the effects that are in the plugin itself. if I take a look and see what they actually have for effects on this, there is an effects section. It's down at the bottom here. You can see that for effects A, they already have a reverb. So all I have to really do is just turn this effects send up, and we should actually have reverb on this. There's also some chorus on it, so if we turn up the chorus section on it, you can see chorus is here for the effects number 2. And turn that chorus section on. Now, the size of the room doesn't sound very big. It might actually give it a little bit more oomph if we change the size of the room as well. Now we're actually blending these two bass lines together. Here's the original bass line, just a thumpy sounding bass. We could also automate the cutoff on this one as well. Cool. And we could also then record that down as audio and even apply more effects to it as well inside of Pro Tools. So we've got a good head start on at least getting the track nailed down. So far, all we did tonight is we started from scratch tonight. Remember, I kind of ditched everything we did last week, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to get us some good materials, and I actually think this gives us a better song structure as well. The other track that we pulled up last week was more of a house song. House songs don't necessarily follow the same traditions of verse, chorus, and that whole deal. So this actually allowed us to follow a typical song structure in more of a pop vein, and it makes it a little bit more interesting. House songs can typically be a little bit bland, so this was actually a really, really excellent way of getting us up and running. So next week, I'm going to probably end up ditching their drums, and we just use their drums as a guide track, and we'll end up pulling out our own drums, recording our drums down to individual tracks. But I like what we did tonight. Let me go ahead and open up for questions. Go ahead and type any questions you guys have into our chat box, and I'll answer your questions. And if it helps to open up your mic, I can do that as well. Alicia had a question. Let me find you in my list here, Alicia, and I'm going to go ahead and open up your mic. Give me 1 second. Okay, Alicia, you are now live. Hello, Alicia.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good.
So you had a question about cutting out a vocal.
I just want to cut out like a bad word.
Oh, so like a bad word? You just want to, in other words, maybe the song has some explicit lyrics in it that you're not really fond of? Well, I tell you what, let me show you how they do it, what you usually hear on the radio. Let's imagine, let's go into the lyrics here. I'm going to unsolo my bass line here, so that way we can get back to the vocals. And let's solo out the vocals. Now, the cool thing is, since we already nailed the tempo in this song, doing what you're asking is going to be pretty easy. Let's say that, I don't know, let's take just, let me see where we're at here first. Period 1 period takes me to the intro, period 2 period. So we're here at the first verse. I'm going to go ahead and just give myself 2 bars, and we'll just find a word in the first 2 bars, and we'll assume that one of these words is a bad word.
Hey there, lover.
Let's say the word lover has something very explicit, not something you'd want to actually play out, or definitely wouldn't make it on the radio. Change yourself to 8th notes, or in this case, we see that lover is a little bit sharper than maybe an 8th note resolution. So put yourself in something like 32nd notes. So we can take the word lover, and we can actually just reverse it. So to reverse it, we would just go up to Audio Suite, go down to Other, and then go find Reverse.
Okay.
Hit Render, and then when we play this back, you'll hear it in reverse. So we'll get back to period 2 period, to a first verse, give myself 2 bars to play back, and play it back.
Hey there, lover. How can we start out trying to say there, lover?
So typically, on the radio, they typically will just take whatever word it is and just reverse it. And we could also, if it's still too explicit, we could apply some other effects to it, or even rearrange it's an already reversed word. So if that's the case, we zoom into it, Option F, and if I were basically to then cut this up into little sections, we could then scramble it. So for right now, in fact, take a look at this. If we go underneath Edit, and then we say Separate Clip on the grid, say OK. Now it's in all these little different chunks here. Then I can just move it around to different sections. For instance, I'm going to move these just down to another track just to make it easier for me to kind of rearrange. But notice here, I'm just going to kind of start scrambling the sections up. And that way you're never going to be able to tell what the original word said. And of course, we'll put the parts back in there. So we're just playing word scramble now with the actual words themselves and just putting them in a totally different order than what they originally were in. And it's not going to sound anything like the original. So if we go,
Sorry.
that's all right, not a big deal. Period to period brings me back to where we started off. Give myself 2 bars to play back, and we'll listen to this. Option F.
Hey then.
I got a little bit of a delay here happening. Give me 1 second. Here's where it's a good idea to save my work. This little beach ball, that's actually a kiss of death, so it's a good idea to save my work. I'm hoping my session doesn't crash. Did that help you out? Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, goodness gracious. There went my session. Hopefully we saved my work somewhere along the way.
Sorry.
Cool. Did you have another question?
No, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent question. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Joel had a really good point. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just reopen the session. It'll actually show us pretty much where I'd saved at last, because we can always do open recent. And I'm hoping I hit Command S somewhere before we made all of our changes. I don't recall saving, but there is also a feature inside of Pro Tools that could have saved me some headache, and I'll show you what that is. There's a way to automatically have Pro Tools save, and you can ask it to save at certain increments, like every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. So unfortunately, I have a feeling we haven't saved for a while. Hey, Joel, you had a question, something about an email. What I'm going to want to do as well is if it's a personal question and you don't want to broadcast it here in front of everyone, I'm going to open up my iChat in a moment. I'll go ahead and type in my iChat, and that way if you guys have personal questions. So there is my iChat handle. And we'll go ahead and open that up. And I'll pull that off to another screen so that the rest of class can't see your iChat messages to me. But that way, if you do have something in its personal nature. So open recent session. Yikes, looks like I lost quite a bit of work. Oh, you know what? This is the wrong session.
Logged into audiovisionary at me.com.
All right, guys. So any other questions you guys might have?